Welcome back now here to the main session in Constance. I'm Bernd, and every one of you who has attended a previous summit also knows what's coming now. It's a session that we call What's New and What's Cooking. It's the KNIME time. This is a session, I have a few colleagues with me here, Jim in Austin, Paolo in Rome, and Toby also in Constance. Let me start right away. This kind of overview we've seen in a similar pattern before. Michael showed this, the data science end-to-end, and how our software fits to that. There's the analytics platform on the left-hand side for the solution creation, and the KNIME Server for putting things into production. I'd like to start with showing some of the highlights that we added in the past release. In the interest of time, I picked my two favorites. The first one is the Python integration, which isn't really new. It's something that we also had before, obviously, but there are some interesting additions to it. So the Python integration, Dennis showed this in his session, Michael mentioned it, Rosaria mentioned it. It's just an integration that allows you to plug in pieces of Python snippets into your workflow and use them as if they were native KNIME nodes. This is nice and very handy, and there's absolutely no problem if you run this always on the same machine. There's an interesting challenge, however, and Michael also mentioned that as number 4 in his data scientist top 5, it's putting things into production and making sure you can deal with the dependency hell. And this is specifically a problem for Python. Once you take a workflow, move it onto a different target, then for instance, a KNIME Server or just shared on the KNIME Hub, and you have to make sure that you have the same environment also over there. To address this, what we added in the December release is a node called Conda Environment Propagation. And at design time, when you run this node, it allows you to sort of freeze the dependencies and all the packages that are required in order to run this particular Python script. So there's a bunch of configuration, and once it's run also on the server or on your co-worker's machine, it will reestablish the same environment. So it's super helpful. Another highlight here is a new table backend. So what you see here running is a KNIME workflow consisting of nodes that everyone who's used KNIME has used also. It's these kind of the top 10 nodes that are in every KNIME workflow. If you just use the standard settings, take this workflow, let's ignore what exact data they run, and process it and run it to completion. Standard setting, it's going to take about 2 minutes. There's a new addition also in the December release that you set up on a KNIME workflow. If you run this, the new columnar table backend, it will run in about less than half of the time. So it's much faster execution. While the Python integration is something for people using Python, obviously, in conjunction with KNIME, this new table backend is for everyone interested in running KNIME workflows. We keep working on this also in the future. There's tons more. This is all documented also on our web pages. Don't need to remember the link here, but if you go onto our web pages, you'll find tons of information what other piece of functionality is new. Looking forward and looking into what's going to come also in the next feature releases in KNIME, our focus areas is continuing to enhance the performance, especially in conjunction with Python scripting. Also looking at integrating deployment and polishing and enhancing this piece, so enabling users to get their workflows from design into production. Obviously, there will tons of new nodes will also be released, and we'll look also at integrations. There are some listed out here: Azure Data Lake Store, Gen 2, Samba, Spark. We look at Snowflake, MongoDB, and then also I'd like to mention for extension developers, so not only for community contributions who add functionality to KNIME, but also partners and customers who have their own custom in-house extensions. We'll also look at updating the API to Java 11. So much on this. I'd like to hand over to Jim in Austin now. Jim, can you talk about the server, please?
Yes, thank you, Bernd. Let's talk about KNIME Server. Okay, with KNIME Server, you can collaborate with your data science teams can collaborate together using a shared workflow repository. You can also share models, you can share components, you can share files. So just a way of your team, can actually work together and share all of that on KNIME Server. You can actually schedule workflows also, so that way you can automate them. They can run periodically based on the schedules that you build. When you deploy a workflow to KNIME Server, you can invoke it through a REST API, so you can integrate that with your applications. You can also build guided analytic applications, and Paolo is going to be talking about that in just a minute. Security-wise, KNIME Server allows you to integrate with LDAP, with OAuth, and with AD, so you have single sign-on for your enterprise users. KNIME Server supports what we call executors. They're the workers that actually run workflows for the KNIME Server. Those can be distributed out of the KNIME Server machines. They can actually run in their own environment. We also created a new feature called executor groups, where you can logically group those executors together. We've done that in this example for like marketing, for finance, for engineering. The idea there is that you can then separate the compute resources for your different departments within your company. That's a really common way that we see people using this. But it also allows you to do a very flexible deployments. For example, our executive group 1 is running on Azure. It's using BYOL or bring your own license. Executive group 2 is running locally. Maybe it has to run in your own data center because your database is there, and the finance group won't let you put that database on cloud. And executive group 3 is running on AWS using pay-as-you-go because the engineering team is using GPUs. They're very expensive, right? So we just want to use them as we need them. And we're using auto scaling to scale up when we need them and kind of throw them away when we don't need them to save cost. A new feature that was added to KNIME Server recently was the ability to add monitoring. So if you go to the admin portal, there's now a monitoring tab, and there's 3 things that you can monitor. The first one is jobs. And next we have executors. You can see they're grouped by executor groups, as we talked about. You can actually look at each individual executor and see what's happening on that executor, what jobs are running there. And next we have schedules. So as you build schedules, you can look at them. They can actually be grouped by user. So it just helps you organize them as you want to look at them. And next we're working on something new called KNIME Edge. This is actually an extension to KNIME Server. This is all about taking inference workflows where you're applying models and deploying them as a service. So this is all about model operations. You can see we have a KNIME Edge there. It has 2 inference workflows deployed. Applications, it exposes an API endpoint, and so those applications, web applications, factory applications, whatever they may be, as long as they can make an API call, they can then use those inference endpoints. It's available in summer 2021. And next is Paolo to talk about data science applications. Take it away, Paolo.
Hello, thank you, Jim. So yes, I would like to present my example for showing you what we already have about data science applications and what's coming. So here is actually something that is already available in KNIME. This is an example of a data science application. It is a KNIME workflow that is executing on KNIME Server and available via the KNIME web portal through this user interface. So in this example, we are connecting to a database, and we are connecting using some credentials. And here, down here, I can click next to go to the next page. Here, I connected to this database. In this case, we have a row for each customer given this query, and I'm able interactively to select and get the rows I need for my analysis. In this case, I want to get some customer by the likely to churn and over a precise subscription to a product. So here I select those 2. And then next, I get this final page where I see those 2 information about this anonymized data on customers, and I can download an Excel file that is listing this information. This was a really simple example of what you can do when deploying currently data science application with KNIME. And if we want to see the workflow behind this interface, this is actually an analytics platform. I'm opening the actual workflow that I was using, and you can see there is a workflow using interactive components. There is actually 3 of them. And this is the one in the middle I was showing you before, that if I open locally, you can see the interface just like before when I was operating on Google Chrome. Now, this is something we already have. And stepwise wizard execution is actually really often used and works perfectly, but sometimes you might want to go with something happening all on a single page. So let me show you for what's new, what's actually coming with the summer release. So here I go back to my Chrome and I open here this different application. You can see here that there is no next button here at the bottom, right? But I have everything here that I want to operate on. So those are the last 20 tweets we're getting right now from Twitter, from using Twitter API with hashtag KNIME and KNIME Data Talks. I can select all the tweets right now that are using the hashtag KNIME Data Talks, or I can, for example, get all the latest users based on the last 100 tweets. We have here a dashboard that is updating, and also the related Falgout is updating, and we can see that, for example, Codrin is a really active user right now, but also we have partners like ClearPix, and this is all taking data live. So if we want to switch visualization, instead of moving to another page, we can deactivate certain visualization, activate some others using this other button here at the top. And we can see here a map popping up by country. So it's important that you see this. Yes, a KNIME user can, I mean, someone with access to the KNIME server can log in and see this via the KNIME web portal, but also would like to show you that this is actually also working when you make this application available via any other website by embedding it. Like, for example, we can look right now at all the known users tweeting from United States based on the fact whether they shared their location to us in some known way. For example, here we have Scott or Jason dancing, and those are KNIMers, but also here some other user. And this is a really quick example. If I want to show you the workflow that I'm using for this application, here it is, one single interactive component. And if I go inside this interactive component, this is actually the workflow. It's no coding. This is totally codeless. I simply added this new node that is coming with the summer release refresh button widget in key places to decide what to execute when. All right, so thank you. Now I would like to give the stage to Tobias connecting from Constance. Thank you.
Thanks, Paolo. So jumping right in today, I want to give you a quick update on the KNIME Hub, what's happening there. So today, especially, I want to talk about collaboration on the KNIME Hub. So to show you that, I'm already logged in. I go to my Spaces page, and here you can see my Spaces. As you know, we have private and public spaces there, and spaces are basically a container for your data science project where you work in. So for example, I open this project here, the churn analysis project. And as you can see, I uploaded already a few things, data, components, and a workflow. I added a nice description and title. And this is all good and great. For me, I can do everything I want. But one key element is missing. So in real life, we often don't work on our own on a project, on a data science project. But we want to work with other people at the same time. So for example, in this case, I know Katrin, and my colleague Katrin, she is really good at doing web portal dashboards. So I want to invite her to this project and work with her together on this. So to go this, I hover over to the top right, and there's a button and it says Manage Contributors. I click on that, and the side panel opens. I can now go ahead and type in Katrin's username, just like this. Hit enter, and now there's Katrin. I can also in one go add other users, just like this, and hit save. And now I can work together with these two users on that project. I can always go ahead and edit this again. So if I go there again, there's the button again. I can, for example, remove this user and hit save again. And now only Katrin has write access to this project. In the next step, Katrin would go ahead and open up her analytics platform. And she would now log into the My KNIME Hub mount point, which everybody has. and she would see this. So she sees the exact same space I just showed you, the churn analysis project, and in brackets you can see T. Schmidt. So that's my username, so Katrin knows that space is actually owned by me. She can now go ahead and, for example, edit that web portal dashboard and add a new version to that space. And this, in a nutshell, is how we work together on the KNIME Hub and collaborate. And next, please. If you want to try this out, you can go on hub.knime.com right now and just log in and try it out. As a start, this will be only available for your public spaces. And with that, back to Bernd.